After school lets out, these youth gather for some serious chess competition. There's laughing and joking around. And from the looks of things, it could be any after-school program. But this is the Evening Reporting Center, a program that supervises youth in the juvenile probation system in Berks County, Pennsylvania. Every weekday from 3 to 9 in the evening, the time when juvenile crime is at its highest. The space may not look like much, a couple of computers and a school cafeteria, really. But here these young people get fed, do homework. They get emotional support and advice from good role models, and it's proving to be a successful alternative to secure detention for kids awaiting their trial date.
They're sent to us by the courts, and they are under house arrest. They vary from violations of not going to school to robbery, and they send them to us to make sure that they don't violate the terms of their probation and the terms of court.
The town of Reading has the highest concentration of Latinos of any city in Pennsylvania. In fact, 70% of children enrolled in public school are Latino. It also happens to have a growing number of residents living at or below the poverty line, more so than any other city in the state. 3 years ago, Berks County Senior Judge Arthur Grimm noticed just how many kids of color were ending up in the juvenile court system and reached out to others in the community to help him do something about it.
It was important, I felt, to have some guidance and leadership for the entire system to understand that when you talk about an ethnic minority, you're not talking about one group. There is no such thing as a group of Hispanic people. They're as diverse as English-speaking people are. We wanted to have an opportunity to have the procedures and the guidelines and the way in which we do business be spot on, and that the opportunity with MacArthur was to do just that.
In 2005, Berks County was selected to receive support from the MacArthur Foundation for Juvenile Justice Reform, specifically for reducing the number of minority youth in confined lockup. The county received technical and financial assistance, as well as input from field professionals and the community to develop a system that was fair and effective. The support first enabled Berks County to collect better data that helped them understand the severity and scope of their problems. They found that Latino and African American youth were 2 times as likely to be incarcerated as white youth in Berks County. It's called disproportionate minority contact, or DMC, a term used for overrepresentation of kids of color in any decision point in the juvenile justice system. Dana Schoenberg, senior staff attorney at the Center for Children's Law and Policy, which oversees efforts to reduce DMC in the sites supported by MacArthur, explains.
Youth of color have the right to the same treatment in the juvenile justice system as white youth do. They should have the same opportunity for rehabilitation and success as white kids. But what we see around the country is that youth of color are arrested at a greater rate, they're locked in detention centers at a greater rate, and they're sent to out-of-home placement at a higher rate than white kids, even for the same offenses.
Some problems required simple fixes, like many of the offenders' families were not native English speakers and needed materials in Spanish to understand what was happening to their children. But other problems, like ensuring that all young people who come in contact with the juvenile justice system receive equal treatment, proved more challenging.
The old system was that it would be up to that probation officer to decide whether a detention order would be sought or not. And they did it with care, with concern, and with a lot of expertise, but it was not a uniform approach, depended in part who the PO was.
The solution came in a 2-sided piece of paper called a detention assessment instrument, a graded scale that probation officers now use to take the subjectivity out of making a detention decision. The premise is simple. Each offense committed is worth a certain score, and factors like whether the child has been on probation are also added in. The final score determines whether the child will be detained.
We have probation officers with 2 years' experience making those decisions, up to 25 years of experience. And I just wanted to structure it a little better. I wanted to insulate them if they would feel pressure from the police to make a decision to detain someone. That's not why you detain someone. You detain someone for certain reasons, and if you have options available to you, you use them.
It was also found that the county lacked alternatives to sending kids to detention.
We know that with the exception of limited number of kids who need to be locked up to protect the public, there are many more kids who are incarcerated who don't need to be incarcerated, who would do better in rehabilitative programs closer to home, in programs that serve them in their communities and work with their families to help resolve the problems that got them there in the first place.
With support received from the MacArthur Foundation, the county also won federal funding to create Youth Build, a program that helps at-risk youth earn their GEDs, learn a building trade, and gain skills to get a job. It's another push to keep kids who have dropped out of school busy, especially during hours when county crime is at its highest.
It was like a brand new opportunity to get my life on track since I did slack a lot in high school.
I have a son. He is my motivation. That's why I'm attending, to give him a better life. It'll open doors for me that weren't open before because I was kind of messing up in school, and I think it'll help me get on the right path now.
Efforts like Youth Build and the Evening Reporting Center are doing just that. Joe Guillama is a juvenile attorney, volunteers at the ERC, and is involved in efforts to reduce the number of minority youth in secure detention.
I think we ought to embrace these kids. When these kids, they're kids, they're going to make mistakes, okay? But what you do with a child who makes a mistake is you hold him accountable, but you also show him that he still has potential, that he still has abilities to turn things around.
While the stories of second chances may touch your heart, the numbers prove this program's success. Since late 2007, Berks County has reduced its detention population by more than 50% without compromising public safety. Because fewer juveniles were placed out of home long-term, the county saved $2 million last year. Most impressively, the county permanently removed 24 beds from its secure detention program, using the space to house job readiness programs and non-secure shelter beds for homeless or runaway youth. And out of all the young people who attended the Evening Reporting Center, only one has committed a new offense.
It costs a darn sight more to incarcerate a person in adult prison than it does to work with changing their lives when they're juveniles. And it also is much, much more likely to be successful.